My first job, I found off Craigslist because sometimes you're desperate for work.
Some would say that that's a very challenging way to
Yeah,
meet
no, it
somebody.
is. It
That's a great
is.
way to get murdered.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another special episode of Hot Corner Highlights. On tonight's show, we have a very special guest, Aziza Rodriguez out of Colorado, a healthcare professional caregiver who is going to talk to us about her use of assistive technology, her guide dog, and other topics of interest. I hope that you sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Hot Corner Highlights. Please remember to email the show if you have any comments, suggestions at athotcorner@gmail.com. Please also like, subscribe, and share for more great content. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I want to take a couple of minutes to, first of all, thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again. We are up to 26 subscribers in 3 weeks. That's phenomenal. I never thought we'd get two, but we're here. So I appreciate your subscriptions, your viewership is very important to us, and we continue to invite you to share this content with your friends, those in your network who you think could benefit from these free-form discussions and technology discussions that we have with you on a fairly regular basis. We're going to try to be more consistent with the content. We're starting to gather a nice following, and I very much appreciate it. Again, I never thought we'd get past 2 subscribers, and maybe that was just going to be me and my dog, but it's more than me and my dog, so I appreciate that. Our goal is going to be 50 subscribers. Hopefully, we can get there. We have to start small, have to start somewhere, um, and it's all thanks to you guys. Let's get into your official title. I made one up for you in the intro, but I'm sure you have a more professional sounding title than the one I made up for you, so tell us about it.
I'm totally going to use yours on my next resume. But officially, it would either be a home health care provider or personal care provider, depending on what company you're working for or what the client's preference is.
That's awesome. So, yeah, by the way, the business cards are in the mail, so
Thanks. Okay, I'm all set.
right, they'll just have QR codes. Yeah, so let's get into it. How long have you been doing this? Let's get a little background on how you even got interested in this field. What is it that led you to this uh, professional caregiving and your journey so far?
Yeah, so I've been working with kids with disabilities since I was a teenager. I did some tutoring. My first job was a summer camp counselor. Um, and then I did some nannying for a friend's baby who was a premature little one. And that was full time. I worked for them 5 days a week for a long time. She was about 6 months until about two. Um, and that is really what got me interested in the medical side and like the healthcare side of things because she got visits from a nurse to make sure she was meeting her percentiles and developmental goals. Having a preemie is a complicated, scary process. So being a part of that and being able to give feedback on how she was doing during the day when she was with me was just a really interesting experience. So when they moved and I started looking for other jobs, something that was interesting to me was providing in home services to people who needed health support and disability support.
And I'm sure there have been so many challenging moments in your journey in this industry. Primarily, I would guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would guess that one of the primary challenges is knocking down stereotypes that a blind person can't do this sort of job, that you require some sort of vision to be able to provide certain medical care or assistance for someone.
Yes, especially when you talk about children. Some people might be familiar with the whole fiasco that was on The Breakfast Club a few years ago, where this young woman was really publicly mocked for wanting to do childcare as a blind person, and that was really hard to watch because it was like, this is my job. You guys are making fun of this is, it was heartbreaking to watch people be deterred and discouraged from following in that path. But yeah, it can be really hard, and I'm really lucky. I've been really blessed by families who have opened their homes to me and trusted me with their children, and their loved ones, because in this industry with home health, families pick the providers. It's not like the companies assign you a caregiver and then you're just stuck with them unless you appeal. Like, you have to select your own caregiver and then tell the company you want this provider on your service plan. So that's a really big honor, but also a big challenge, is to meet families and connect with them in a way that will, get them to say, I want this person to work with my family.
And you started doing that right out of high school, working with families?
No, I started home health in 2017. I actually, my first job, I found off Craigslist, because that's, sometimes you're desperate for work.
Some would say that that's a very challenging way to
Yeah,
meet
no, it
somebody.
is. It
That's a great
is.
way to get murdered.
Yeah, yes. Um, so definitely tell people where you're going. Have your phone. Be safe. Um, but this mother had posted this ad for someone to act as a caregiver for her son, um, who has some developmental and cognitive disabilities. And my first client was actually an adult, and so I met her. We talked about what the client's challenges would be, what my job description would be, and then at a later point, I met the client. And that's how it started. And interestingly enough, I was again on Craigslist and found another
Two
ad
strikes.
for working with two little girls who had similar needs. And it turned out to be the same person. She has three kids. So I had been working with her adult son, who lives independently with supports in place. And she needed support for her two younger children. And from there, it was word of mouth. I signed up as a Girl Scout volunteer to be able to give the girls support there, and met some of their family friends and troop members who also needed supports, and started working with their families. Um, and it's just kind of grown from there.
I often find that some of the most rewarding careers, if not the most rewarding careers, are the careers that don't even feel like work. Are you there?
It depends on the day. um,
I guess like
with
any profession. Yes.
Yes, with the adults, it's a little bit harder. You never really get used to reminding an adult about their hygiene or their home upkeep, or nutrition and that sort of thing. It's a little, it's different telling a 4-year-old, hey, we're going to go take a bath now, than telling a 23-year-old male, you need to take a bath now. But it's part of the job. And sometimes, naturally children don't want to do things, but then you add in cognitive and developmental disabilities and trauma. Most of my minor clients have been adopted out of the foster care system, due to traumatic and abusive circumstances. So that adds a layer of complication to the situation. And sometimes those pieces come up, and you don't get very much done that day. So it's a very it can be exhausting. You're putting a lot into these kinds of professions. Same thing, I imagine the same thing with teachers and any other healthcare work. You give a lot of yourself, so it can be exhausting, but it is also very rewarding.
In keeping with the theme of what we were talking about earlier about the barriers that you faced beginning your job search, Craigslist being one of those. But what happened? Tell me more about, what happened when you showed up. Was there a gasp? All of a sudden, this blind chick shows up, and, what was that like?
Um, so not so much with my home health care work, because, like I said, after the initial one, a lot of my contacts have been friends or acquaintances of the initial client, and it's kind of spiraled from there. Um, More so when I respond to like community based ads for sitters or childcare, which I still do on the side. And it's really hit or miss. You have to be prepared to be told no in these situations, and it's not easy. And there isn't a fallback like it's you're not going to go and like file an employment opportunity lawsuit against a parent for not letting you watch their kid. Like that's their prerogative. It's
Right,
their child.
right.
So you kind of do have to brace yourself for a potential no or not getting a call back or whatever. But this is a different type of job, and so it's that much more of an honor and a trust exercise to allow someone into your home and with your children. And then, additionally, with your children who are vulnerable because of their diagnoses. So, yeah, it can be really hard. My strategy is really to don't don't let people ask questions. You should know what they're going to ask. If you're invested in your job, you should have those answers ready and answer them before they ask. Sound like you know what you're doing. Sound like you're ready to problem solve. You know, anticipate what they will be concerned about and alleviate those concerns instead of just waiting for them to bring them up.
I'm actually very glad that you mentioned those points because on a previous episode of Assistive Technology Hot Corner, we talked to a recruiter, a job recruiter, who mentioned the importance of being prepared, anticipating questions, being solution oriented versus an additional problem. And in your case, not that their children are a problem, but an additional challenge that a father or a mother would have to work with. So definitely glad that you touched on that again. So on this channel, we try to focus a lot on assistive technology and adaptive tech, which as a blind person, we all use on a daily basis. What sort of adaptive technology have you found that is particularly helpful in what you do, working with children versus adults? And is there a difference in your approach and or in the combination of technology that you use with children and or adults?
So, I use the computer a lot to log my notes. In the healthcare field, it's sometimes called charting. So, you keep track of your hours, your payable units, and the activities you did with your client. So, depending on the service provided, and I provide, I think, four different ones at this time. There are service plans, and each service plan outlines what services and what activities fall under those services that each client is eligible for. So you kind of mark down what you guys did, provide any notes. Obviously, because this is healthcare, you have to provide incident reports if anything out of the usual happened, any injuries, that sort of thing. So definitely typing skills, navigating different forms is something to be comfortable with because every company uses their own process. Additionally, every year I have to complete CEUs, which are continuing education units.
Hmm.
So it covers, the HIPAA and the client rights and your rights and a lot of repetitive stuff that I could probably like recite in my sleep by now. And each year it's different. You have to be able to problem solve and use different browsers and use different devices and operating systems to make sure it works because people love to break what's not broken.
Yeah, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
I shudder to think about each and every single Microsoft Patch Tuesday. So that's a scary thing in my field.
A new thing is that Medicaid, which a lot of my clients receive services through, is requiring like on location tracking to make sure you're actually there and providing the service. You're not just like, you know, out of town and you're like, yeah, I totally worked. um, and that has been an accessibility issue. And, mainly the best thing is just to be patient. I requested training for this new app that they rolled out to be able to meet those requirements. And I went back and forth with the person trying to explain like this is not working. I need, a walkthrough, see if this is possible. And so we finally got on a call and she's just screen sharing. And I was like, no, now I'm really confused as to whether you even read my emails because I don't think you understand that this is an accessibility
It's
thing.
not gonna
I think
work.
you just think that I don't know how to read. like, um, so, being creative, lots of patience. I use my phone primarily when I'm on site to keep track of the service plans and log in and out. Sometimes, just like any other child, incentives of, okay, we're going to play a story, we're going to watch a YouTube video, here's a picture of my dog, is helpful to kind of keep things moving along. Smart devices are really helpful to set timers and, reminders to help my clients feel a little bit more independent. So it's not me telling them, okay, now it's time to eat lunch. It's something that, we can give assistance in setting and then they feel like they've done it themselves. And now they're responding to a schedule they've agreed to, which is helpful.
Wow, yeah, sounds fantastic. So I'm hearing a lot of organizational skills that
Oh
are
God.
needed for this
Yes.
type of work.
Yes.
Excellent that you have them, because I am not the most organized person in the world. So I think that it would be a little bit more difficult for me. Let's get into, you talked a little bit about the year-to-year changes, not only in technology. Obviously, we know that technology, not just assistive tech, but technology changes at such an incredibly rapid pace. I mean, it seems like it was just yesterday that I had an iPhone 4, which was to me the most craziest thing because, first of all, I was like, how am I going to navigate a phone with no buttons? So then we answered that dilemma, and now we are on iOS, what, 15 now? And
Wow.
iPhone 13. It's just amazing how much technology has changed. And in that time, there have been so many accessibility tweaks and settings that have come a long way to helping us be independent. I have actually said many times before that being blind now is probably easier than it's ever been. And that to me, at least to me, going to any city and being able to walk the streets knowing exactly what street I'm on, that's a pretty big deal. So, as technology changes, and you talked a little bit about how your job has changed year to year, talk to me about the last couple of years. The last couple of years, the world has gone through an incredible transformation from 2019 to where we were all carelessly hanging out to 2020 where COVID happened. And I feel like we've all said, and then COVID happened once or twice in the last couple of years. So tell me how that impacted your job and what role technology played in helping you complete or fulfill your job responsibilities despite COVID.
So during COVID, I really didn't see many of my clients, unfortunately, which really was unfortunate for on multiple levels. The disabilities I work with uh, flourish on routine and schedule and the familiar. So having this period of time where nobody was, seeing each other in person, um, put a stop to a lot of in home services. And that was something my kiddos struggled with a lot, and parents too, because now they didn't have these supports in place to help regulate, mood, disability, medical needs. Um, I did do some virtual work, which, again, because of the diagnoses of my kids, was hit or miss because, blue light is a thing and it affects the cognitive and developmentally affected brain a little bit differently than the neurotypical brain. And so that was a struggle for these kids to be put in front of a screen for hours and hours, and by virtue of doing that, we were trying to help but also adding to the dysregulation because these kids are not kids that sit in front of screens all day traditionally. So there was lots of, I'm just going to set the tablet down and walk away and there's nothing you can do about it.
You're not here to stop me.
Exactly. Or, and this is something, all professionals working with little ones
Yeah,
in this era had to deal with. I'm going to, be on another tab, and there's also nothing you can do about that.
that's true.
um, so, definitely getting creative. Like, okay, we're going to have you read aloud to me. We're going to set this timer here, making games up. Okay, you set your echo and I'll set mine, and we'll see if they match up. Trying to engage as much as possible without that connection that these kids thrive on. It was difficult.
I would imagine that for some people dealing with various degrees of circumstances may appreciate physical contact more so than those who may not be facing similar circumstances.
It was also interesting to see my younger ones struggle with technology because, like one of my kids going into first grade, now she's doing school at home on a Chromebook when, I mean, God, she's 6. She's only been doing like YouTube videos and, like playing on the library website on technology, like fun kids games. And now they're like, okay, log into Google Classroom and submit your work, and mom and dad have jobs too, so it was a very messy, difficult time. And some kids, there were days where it was just like, nope, I'm not doing it, and it's like, I don't blame you.
I find it very interesting that you mentioned that because for a lot of adults, the assumption is that all the kids get it. The kids get it, the adults don't, is the typical assumption that some adults would make. But I personally, I had never even thought about that curb to logging on to different systems,
Hmm.
following a workflow that kids
Or
aren't just used to.
typing, we've had our kids on screens and stuff, yes, but touch screens. They're not typing their answers or like selecting, like, match this assignment to this teacher, like this is a level of technical knowledge that they usually don't get until later.
It's a different expectation, different workflow.
Mm-hmm. And then also the social aspect,
Hmm.
especially for going back to a majority of the kids I work with disabilities, they lost a lot of their social interaction, which with this type of disability can be a huge detriment to their developmental process. And then also just in home, how do you explain to a 6 year old, yes, I know you see your mom, but she's at work and you're at school?
Right, right. Well, that's certainly another level of complexity that you as a caretaker have to deal with, even remotely, which
Mm-hmm.
is even more challenging. I can't even imagine. Fortunately, I was involved in an industry that last year we actually saw probably one of the most profitable years that we've ever had. Um, and certainly technology played a huge role in that success. Um, and but I can certainly see how, and I heard the stories of educators, professional people that are working in schools and healthcare like yourself that are were really struggling to figure out how to make that work. So as 2020 came to an end, thankfully, I thought it would never end, honestly. But when it finally did come to an end, 2021 rolled around, and I think things are hopefully starting to come around. How has this year been for you?
It's been a little bit better. I still see one of my clients virtually, which is still difficult. But I see two of my little ones 3 times a week now, and I see my adult client twice a week now. And so it is much easier to be able to connect and for both of us, it's easier to do my job when I feel like there's a direct result of it instead of feeling like you're just speaking into the void. Um, and the kids definitely benefit, and the parents do too. The purpose of my job is to give these parents of children with disabilities the time to do things that they need to do. So doctor's appointments, housework, take a nap. um, because some of these kids struggle, part of the diagnosis is that they struggle to sleep, or they suffer from separation anxiety, or they have difficulty handling their bathroom issues. So that's a lot for a parent to deal with past the toddler years and just on an ongoing basis. So to have these supports in place to give parents the time to themselves that parents need, so that everyone in the family is supported, happy, and healthy, is really important.
And that is the most important thing that each person that you support is healthy and happy. And I assume that you take great pride in ensuring that that happens.
I do, especially because I'm also providing an example of a working disabled adult for these kids, and for their parents too. Because, let's face it, the medical field, the education field, there's great people in both, but there's also people who can be really negative. Your child will never do this. Your child can't do this. And though that messaging can uh, really shape how children grow up.
Yeah, certainly can. Well, we've talked a lot about your professional um, work experience, technology that you use on a day-to-day basis, and some of the clients that you work with. Let's talk a little bit more about you. Who is Aziza Rodriguez?
Um, well, I live in Denver, Colorado. I have two Labradors. One is a working service dog from Guide Dogs for the Blind, and the other is retired. Um, I'm from California. I moved here about 10 years ago, and I really work and volunteer like all the time. That's my life.
I would assume that that's what you like to do for fun then.
Yeah, everything kind of intersects. My volunteer work right now is I am serving my last year on the Denver Mayor's Youth Commission, where youth, it's youth-led community and social change, and so the adults provide, whatever supports the youth need to meet these goals. Um, and I am a court appointed special advocate for the foster care system. So hopefully soon I'll be assigned a case where I get to just literally hang out with a kid and get to know them and then go to court and provide my opinion on the case and what would be best for the child based on our social interactions and, the information I gather from that child. Marna, my retired service dog, will hopefully become a therapy dog and be able to intersect with a lot of the work and volunteer work that I do, which will be nice, especially for work because a lot of my clients miss her. And as I said, they really thrive on routine. So there's this new dog, and some of them still aren't too sure about her. And a lot of I miss Marna. Where's Marna? So being able to bring her to work with me sometimes would be nice for everyone.
Sometimes I find that dogs become the star of the show relatively quick.
To be honest, in my line of work, I think that's why I've had so much success. Is because I work with a dog, and it's kind of like this major built-in icebreaker. And it's
Yes.
like, well, you could find someone else, but will they have a dog?
Will they have a dog that's just as well behaved as yours?
Yes.
That's awesome. And certainly, so the dogs are, like you said, natural icebreaker. They help build a bridge to that make those children, especially, I would imagine, be especially interested in having Aziza come around again.
Yes, and service dogs are something I can talk about all day. So getting them interested and, providing some like subliminal education on how to behave around service dogs, what service dogs can do, sometimes providing resources if my clients are interested in their own service dogs. It's a fun bonus.
So what it all boils down to is that it's not you, it's the dog.
It is.
It happens to all of us. My dog becomes
Yeah,
a star of the show real fast. Nobody cares about me. It's just
exactly.
it's just he takes over, wants
And
to
you
be
can't
center
even be
stage.
mad, right? You're just
No,
like,
no, of
okay.
course not. No. I'm like, yeah, actually you are the star of the show. Thanks. Thanks for reminding me. That's excellent. So it seems like you have a very well balanced life with a lot of work and fun, and again, a lot of your work is fun. You consider it fun, and you're volunteering, and I find that to be especially interesting in the foster system. There's a lot of people in the foster system that unfortunately get neglected by the system. And
Yes.
I find that a role that there is obviously a role and a need for people like you, and for anyone listening that might be interested in this career, to pursue this career, regardless of your blindness. Obviously, there's someone already doing it. How would you advise somebody that feels inspired by our conversation to pursue this?
I'd say network. It's who you know. It's how you present yourself. Again, prepare for the questions you'll be asked. One of the things I do in interviews is, you know, I'm not going to sit on the couch and watch your kid from across the room. I'm going to be down on the ground with them, engaged with them, so that I can keep track of them. And
Right?
that is one of the lines I use in my interview before they ask. You know, um, get reference letters from anything, even if it's your cousin who you babysat for. Get those reference letters, build a reputation of trustworthiness, and then take any class that pertains even remotely to what you want to do. So I have taken the National Alliance of Mental Illness class. I've taken a disability advocacy class. Um, get your CPR and first aid certifications. Um, build that resume as big as you can make it, to be honest, especially nowadays. Like, the standard of like one page resume is not necessarily the thing that people are looking for at this time. Like, things have changed. So yes, be concise and don't give them like 20 pages, but if you have something worth saying, then say it. And get involved. Try things that you wouldn't normally. The Denver Mayor's Youth Commission and the CASA training, which is the foster care advocate program, these are things I just found on Facebook, and I was like, okay, I have nothing better to do. And then I applied and left it for a couple months, and then got an email. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. So, put your name out there, put your contact information out there, apply to stuff, even if you don't necessarily think it's going to go anywhere. And, it's hard, but don't wallow in the no's. You have to keep, you just got to keep doing it. We have a high unemployment rate in the
We do.
disability
Hmm.
community. But you need to treat finding a job like a job.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite references is a baseball reference. And in baseball, a superstar hitter is a hitter that hits 300 average. A 300 average means that that person is successful at hitting a baseball 3 out of 10 times. That makes a superstar hitter in Major League Baseball. It's mind-boggling, really, that a game like baseball is a game of failure, essentially. And the real superstars are the ones that hit a ball 3 out of 10 times, 4 out of 10 times, if that's unheard of almost, that it happens that way. And I use that analogy when talking to people who are blind that are job seeking. You're gonna hear no, you're gonna fail, you're gonna swing and miss a lot. But every now and again, somebody will throw a sweet fastball right down the center of the plate, and you're gonna smack that out of the park. And that's a huge baseball reference that I know just went right over your head, but that's okay.
And when that happens, value those people. These families I work for, yes, they are a work obligation, but they're also families that I have a personal connection to now because I'm in their home, I'm with their children. So, you know I'll shoot a text off like, how did the recital go, how did the Special Olympics go, because you are now, they say it takes a village to raise a child. You're part of their village now, even if you're getting paid.
Wow.
So, build those personal connections and foster them. And then, as a blind person, um, don't be afraid to like barter for things. I've had people, I have a friend who's a massage therapist, and she's like, I cannot pay you. Can I trade you for a massage for childcare? Can I drive you to the store? These things, when you're first starting and you're trying to get those references, money isn't the only currency in the world. Um, so if people trust you with these things and they can offer you something in return, take that for the gift it is, and build your experience level and build your reference portfolio up that way too.
I'm not discounting the importance of a resume, especially a well-written resume that can document a lot of success. Not going to discount that, but a lot of times when it comes to job seeking and job hunting is who you know,
Mm-hmm.
that network that you build.
Ask everyone for a reference letter. If you've done
Hmm.
something for them, try and get a reference letter.
Absolutely. Even if, you tune somebody's guitar, have them say that was the greatest sounding guitar I've ever heard.
Exactly.
And you want to demonstrate, your abilities, mainly your willingness to think outside of the box and network.
Definitely. Everything should be in your toolbox, even if it's not something you traditionally use. If you are a service dog user, like, you need to keep your cane skills up. If you don't really, use technology. You should probably still know how to use your GPS apps, just in case. Have all these things available to you so that if you're in a situation where you need it, you have it. And then, unfortunately, remember you're operating in a sighted world. So your presentation, how you look, how you present, how you move in their spaces, that matters too.
I want to touch on that a little bit more. I'd like to expand on that because a lot is said, and it should be rightly so. I think that appearance is probably louder than any of your first words can ever be, because the way somebody looks at you, they've already have or conceived some sort of a prejudice, and it could be both good or bad. And unfortunately, we do live in a society that's driven by people that have to look a certain way. How important do you think that is? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about that. For example, you're a guide dog user, obviously guide dog shed. Let's talk a little bit more about how you deal with that.
So yeah, my dogs have supplements that help their skin and coat remain nice and healthy, kind of minimize that shedding process. Um, respect the homes and the vehicles you're using during your work. Yes, this is uh, where I work, but it's not my office. This is their home, so my service dog needs to be confined to the area that they're most comfortable with. It's not going to be let off harness and running around and, you know, causing mayhem. Um, Even though sometimes Stella likes to help herself to cat food, but that's another story. Uh,
My dog does the same thing, but again, that's why I show up to the office at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's there, so I can let him run wild.
um, make an effort to be as respectful as you can. If something does happen, because there are dogs and you can't control everything, take responsibility for it, own it, and handle it. Um, I have kind of given up on keeping fur off my clothes, but that doesn't mean I'm like, my dog is just, blowing their coat every day and it doesn't matter. Do the best you can and ultimately be respectful.
You know, there's nothing wrong with taking a lint roller to your clothes every now and
Yeah.
again. It helps pick those things off
I
real
feel like
fast.
service dog owners should like own stocks and rollers and dryer sheets and all.
Yes, yes, all the tools of the trade
Yeah.
should come in your service dog toolkit.
Yeah.
So you're on your second service dog. How long did you have Marna?
10 years we
10
worked
years.
together, yes.
Wow. That's working 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, because traditionally the service dogs will last about 8 to 10, I believe, right?
Yeah, and she spiritually was not done. She will still try and head for the door sometimes. She did try and get in the harness a couple times when I brought Stella home. So that was a struggle to, say that prioritizing her physical health, felt like a bit of a betrayal of who she was inside.
Yeah.
She didn't know she was done. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's hard to believe I'm already gonna have my dog for 3 years,
yeah,
and
time goes.
it does go fast. And I have said um, the line that all my friends who had service animals told me I would say eventually, that I should have gotten a dog sooner. And quite frankly, I probably should have. But it's also about being in the right place at the right time in your life to be able to get a dog. And in your case, obviously, your dog has been used as not only a service dog, but a tool that has helped you excel in your trade, which is incredible.
Yeah, Marna is unique. She has been with me through all my work experience. So she's gotten to know all my clients in different situations. Um, she is a dog that has been able to handle me like juggling an infant in a car seat and a diaper bag and my backpack and getting in and out of cabs and going to doctor's appointments. Young toddlers hanging on to me and dragging us back. She's just gone with the flow. She was a really unique experience and probably the best dog to introduce me to the lifestyle because she was so adaptable.
I remember being in Colorado with you and watching you. You had your purse, a phone, I think you had a cup of coffee,
Yes.
a dog, and you're about to cross the street and I'm like, "What? How are you doing any of this?"
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
It's
absolutely tremendous. It blows my mind. If I even try to pull my phone out of my pocket, it falls over. So I don't know.
it's you've got to practice
Yeah, I suppose so.
in a safe space.
Not in the middle of a
No.
six-lane intersection.
No. And you have to have that rapport with your dog. Like I said, Marna was very unique because she was adaptable to all that. Stella is still working on it.
How long have you had Stella?
um, 5 months.
Wow, brand new
Yes, very
relationship. So you're
new.
still very much in that honeymoon phase. Let's get to know each other.
Yes, and she is a handful.
It's that young pup energy.
Yes. And, she was raised and trained during COVID, so there's a lot of new experiences and stimuli that she's being introduced to because she was, being raised during the shutdown.
I was
So,
very fortunate to go to the last class or one of the last classes in New York in 2019. So I
yeah.
actually went to school, which is probably
So a
best
lot
for
of these
me.
dogs coming out right now are just fascinated by everything. They're just like, what's
Yeah.
that?
I was
What's
like, oh my
happening?
God, people, what the
Yeah.
people together? What?
Yes.
So what's next for you? Where do you see yourself in the next few years, career-wise? What other projects are you involved in? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, so a couple of things I'm interested in looking into. I'd like to get what is called my QMAP certification, which allows you to administer medications to your clients if needed. Because right now I can say, hey, take your medicine, but I can't handle the medication. Um, I'm interested to see if a blind person is able to be a CNA because some of my clients require that service, and that would obviously pay a bit more, which, who turns down money?
Or no, nobody.
um, and then doing what I do for the foster care system, which is a different program, providing foster care parents with respite, which is one of the services I already provide for families in the home healthcare sector. Those are the three kind of projects I'm looking into as next steps. Along the same path though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the not career projects I'm involved in. I am featured in the, speaking of service dogs, Walk in My Paws, an anthology on working service dogs. So you can learn all about me and Marna and a bunch of other fun stories from handlers. That's available on Amazon, and we are currently in the process of creating another anthology focusing on and uplifting autistic voices and their experience. So hopefully that will be out by Christmas of 2022. And I have a YouTube channel, which, is probably about the same level as yours, probably 26 viewers. Hopefully they're not all dogs.
I was gonna say Floyd subscribed.
Where I do unboxing videos and talk about the accessibility of products from various companies. So we open things and talk about how to identify products, whether the company provided that information in an accessible format. And so that is called the Blind Take. Head over and give us a like. Hopefully, if you like shopping, it's pretty fun.
I hate shopping, but I will
Oh,
still subscribe.
I
Wait,
don't
I
know if
think I
we can be
already did.
friends.
I already subscribed to your channel.
Okay. I
Well,
guess I'll
thank you
keep
so
you.
much for your time, Aziza. This has been a great conversation. I'm very excited that you were able to join us tonight. If anybody wants to follow you on additional social media, you've already given us your YouTube. Are you on Twitter? Do you have public follows on Facebook or Instagram? Where are you?
I am on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, under my name, Aziza Rodriguez. I also have a Facebook page called Fresh Outlook, where I just share accessible and disabled related content and resources. I actually got a message from someone a couple months ago that was really nice. She's like, I got a job from one of the resources you shared, so I was pretty excited about that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so if you need a job, check out my page. Maybe you'll get lucky.
For more great content, please like, subscribe, and share. You may also email the show at athotcorner@gmail.com. That's ATHOTCORNER at gmail.com.